Well, it's finally bloody happened. Jason Demetriou has finally been sacked by the South Sydney Rabbitohs, effective immediately. The news came last night after they had a morning meeting, couldn't decide, then had a night meeting, and it still took them 3 hours to decide what was going on. But ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. The downfall of South Sydney is what we're talking about today, because honestly, it may be one of the great case studies of all time. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and let's get straight into the downfall of South Sydney. Now, we were pretty much expecting this news to come all day yesterday. The two meetings was a bit laughable, and it took till towards the end of some beautiful viewing on NRL 360 for the great and powerful Buzz Rothfield to let the world know that JD had been given the kick out the door, or wherever their new training location is, which, let's be honest, isn't really working. And well, they were on top of the ladder, flying. They had a great end to 2022. They started 2023 on fire. They lost one game. They pumped the Brisbane Broncos. Then they went and pumped the Melbourne Storm in what was supposed to be the match of the round at Magic Round. And since then, they've played 20 games. They've won 5 of them. The only top 8 team being the New Zealand Warriors, which they won away in the rain. And the rain may be one of the great even-outs in world sport. But this is absolutely insane. Last year was the first time since 2017, the final year under Michael Maguire, that the South Sydney Rabbitohs didn't make the top 8. And they should have been making the finals. And if it wasn't for the year before where the Brisbane Broncos had the great fall-off, then South Sydney's 2023 drop-off would probably be considered the worst fallout in a regular season by an NRL team. But hey, Brisbane got there first, and they suck at everything. So it's not just the beginning of this season, which has been atrocious. They're currently sitting last along with the Titans, and what's funny is both these teams have had a bye. So it just shows how bad they both are going, but at least the Titans have shown improvement over the last month, while the South Sydney Rabbitohs have seemed to only get worse. So obviously his sacking had to come. Ever since the Warriors game, we knew that this was coming. They said he had 80 minutes to play for his job. That's the death whistle, and it was only a matter of time. Now, I'm shocked at when they've decided to do this, which is very, very interesting to me. I thought that after that Sharks game, when they looked somewhat in it, that the board was going to use this as an opportunity to, well, keep JD around for the bye week and then really just feed him to the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers. Now, they did feed him to the Melbourne Storm. They haven't fed him to the Penrith Panthers, which does surprise me. I thought the meeting today would all but confirm he would be getting the punt this weekend, but they've decided to move early, which actually makes even less sense because they've had JD to prepare for this Penrith game all week. Now, you've sacked him the night before captain's run, so I don't know what they're doing, South Sydney. If they were going to sack him anyway, why not just sack him after the Sharks game? That's when I felt it was over. I actually felt it was over after the Warriors game. I was a big fan of South Sydney, and I thought they could turn it around, and they looked very, very good in Vegas. Even in round 2, they played a pretty close to full-strength Broncos side, and while that game was a bit of a poo-sling, they stayed in it till the very last minute, and well, dropping Lachlan Ilias looks like one of the worst decisions of all time, because somehow that decision has made South Sydney fall off even a greater cliff. They got pumped by the Sydney Roosters. They scraped out a win against the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and I will give that credit because the longer this season goes on, the Bulldogs actually look like a very credible footy team this year. Even if reading some of the stuff their fans post online gives me brain damage, except for the ones who subscribe to me. Thank you very much. You are a genius. Then they got pumped by the Warriors. They got done by the Sharks, and then they conceded 50 points on Anzac Day to the Melbourne Storm, and I wasn't even that surprised, which tells you all you need to know about South Sydney. And what really sticks out for me is Brad Arthur, for some reason, has been under pressure for the longest bloody time, and I get it. He hasn't won anything, but we all know the Eagles cannot physically win anything, so why are you blaming Brad Arthur? But even then, when he's in the press conferences or when the players are defending him, they always back him. I sort of just said that, lol. But Clinton Gutherson has always sat in the post-match press conference when there's ever any questions. He always defends Brad, always says he wants Brad Arthur to be the coach. Even RCG bloody came out and said he'd die for Brad Arthur. Now, look, I'd love to put that on a lie detector test personally, but still, it's very, very good for Brad Arthur, and it shows the Eagles board, and it shows their fans that the players have faith, and they're still playing for him. When I watch JD in the press conferences, and when I watch the players all week, none of them back JD. Obviously, there's something going on there, whether there is a play division, and look, Sam Burgess and John Morris are looking like absolute geniuses right now, and what sucks for South Sydney is they're looking at bringing Wayne Bennett back, and Wayne's just going to do the same thing for Sam Burgess. But obviously, we'll get into that in a minute. In my opinion, he had to go. Now, is this the right timing? From a business perspective, and looked like what they were doing up to this point, feeding him to Penrith and Melbourne was the smart idea from a business standpoint. Now, from a person standpoint, is it kind of ruining JD's credibility by just feeding him to the two best teams in the competition right now? Yeah, but we've seen players, we've seen clubs, they all know that this is a business now, and some of the way the clubs treat the players, you could put an argument up in court that's saying, I don't think you should get $4 million. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, when you have a playing roster as good as this one that have shown it for the past 5 years, I mean, Seabelt turned this team around in 2018, and they've been a top 4 threat, a premiership threat ever since. Now, they haven't won a comp, which is actually kind of sad for South Sydney fans, considering the position where they are in now. But looking at their roster, there's no reason why they can't return to being a top 4 or top 8 side, even towards the end of this year if something miracle happens. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, there are some issues there, and the players that were part of this gun roster are getting older and aren't as good as they once were. So, the premiership window for me is probably shut, but even with the roster that probably should be making top 8, I don't think JD getting rid of him solves their issues instantly. It should be a quick fix because, unfortunately for the players now, it's all on them. No one's blaming Ben Hornby for the rest of the season. It's all going to be on the players. An interim coach rarely gets to turn a team around, and no one's really going to be criticizing Ben Hornby for the rest of the season as South Sydney continue to play the way they are. And obviously, that means the players are going to play harder. That's just unfortunately the case. If they've loved playing for JD, they would have put in those performances already. But obviously, they haven't been, and no one's defending him in the media. So I think he had to go. Like I said, the timing of it is a bit strange to me. If you were going to get rid of him this time, just get rid of him earlier. Because getting rid of a bloke after you've done all preparation the entire week just to sack him before captain's run, and they're going to get pumped anyway, I know that. But it's just very interesting to me. But this ain't fixing South Sydney's issues quite quickly. Sam Burgess raised them, John Morris raised them, and JD gets as much accountability as the board does. The board are the ones at the end of the day who made the decision to let them go and not listen to their critiques. And well, look at South Sydney now. They have become one of the favourites for the wooden spoon, and when you look at the roster they have, they're still a terrifying team every week. Even for some reason, when South Sydney are on the schedule, when they're playing Penrith on a primetime Thursday night game, for some reason my dumbass redhead thinks, oh yeah, that makes sense because look how good this team is on paper. But unfortunately, they're not playing like it. Obviously, there's some exceptions. Cameron Murray's trying his hard out. Damien Cook, unfortunately, people are criticising him when his forward pack are absolutely dog shit right now and cannot get this man quick play the ball to let him run. Keon's having a crack, but unfortunately, Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell, they're the two. Latrell elbowing Sean Johnson when his club's in crisis. I mean, it's what we've seen from Latrell Mitchell before. This bloke literally cost the Rabbitohs a premiership, you could argue, when he got suspended by taking Joey Manu's eye out. So, it's just been a weird 12 months for South Sydney. A year ago when they signed Jack White, I said that broke the NRL and South Sydney would easily be premiership favourites because I thought they'd be close to winning the grand final last year. And now they are somehow last place. Shows you how quick things can turn in rugby league. South Sydney, for the better part of the last decade, have been a finals powerhouse. Since 2012, they have always been up there except for 15, 16 and 17. But it's on the players now and it's on the board. I think Wayne Bennett comes straight back in, which to me says South Sydney are going backwards because you just did the Wayne Bennett for Jason Demetrio thing, and now it looks like you're going to do the Wayne Bennett for Sam Burgess thing. I get it. If you want Sam Burgess, you have to get Wayne Bennett. But this just proves once again that taking over from Wayne Bennett is a death wish. Obviously, if there was a divide in the playing group, some of them aren't going to want to see Sam Burgess return. So, unfortunately, at the end of the day, when it comes to a playing roster, you've just re-signed on big money, so there's no chance you can get rid of it. Or a coach. The quick fix is going to be the coach. And unfortunately, I hope JD can get another job in rugby league. I think he definitely will, because he showed in the beginning of 2023 and really the end of 2022 that he can be a top-level coach who has experience in finals football. And the good thing for is it's over now. If the players turn it around, then good on them. But if they don't, it's just going to highlight that he wasn't the issue. And I don't think South Sydney are going to be able to turn it around for this season. Obviously, I wish the best to Ben Hornby, but at the end of the day, it's a free shot for him. If he fails, no one's going to blame him. And if he does well, then he's going to be the saviour of South Sydney and maybe getting a job next year. But South Sydney, I don't think this roster is going to be able to win you a premiership. I think that we know now that you need a front rower. And I think a couple of years ago, I would have said Tavita Totola could be that guy. I just unfortunately don't think he is anymore, and your best front rower is leaving. So there are some major roster issues in South Sydney. And the problem is they've invested heavily into some outside backs. I mean, looking back, they probably didn't need Jack Whiten. And that was really the start of this downfall. So I don't know whether that caused some infighting, but they could have used that money that was upwards to $1 million that they used on Jack Whiten to get Adam Fanua-Blake. And I get you want your planning for when Cody Walker moves on, but you had Lockie Ilias there. Now he's free to go because you're signing some bloke from England. South Sydney are just all over the place, and I can't really see it getting any better. The only good thing is that when Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell want to, and I'm not saying it's easy as them going, all right, we'll turn up because I want to play today, but they have a team that can play finals football, so it's not all doom and gloom. South Sydney fans can shoot their whinging because I've watched Bulldogs, Dragons, and Tigers be crap for nearly a decade now, and when you look at their roster, trust me, South Sydney fans, you could be doing far worse. Yes, I know it's the beginning of May and your season's pretty much all but over, unless you do the reverse to what you did last year, which, look, I mean, could technically happen. I don't see it happening. Then again, I didn't see this happening last year. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are about the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Can and how will they turn this around? Let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. Smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.